And now, YouTube comments with Jacksepticeye.
Hey Jack, if you were to get into a fight, what would your soundtrack be? My soundtrack would just be the Doom 2016 soundtrack, entering into battle with thunderous gent music right behind me, powering my every move. Or it would be like highty-tighty, like fake Irish music. How to F are you such a lovely, caring, unfathomably generous human being? I've killed many people. Jack, what would you do if you were teleporting to Egypt and a giant snake looked down at you and said, "I'm sorry, little one," and then proceeded to twist your nipples dry? I'd say twist harder. Do you miss interacting with your audience like this? If so, would you consider doing this again in the future? Yes, I desperately miss doing these kinds of things, but the YouTube comment system has changed quite a bit since I used to do reading your comments videos, and the types of comments people leave are very, very different than what they were back then. There's very little to like glean from them these days because it's usually very specific to the video, or it's a just generalized meme, so it's hard to answer anything anymore. Hi Jack, I have a question for you. That's great because we're doing reading your comments. Which Let's Play series blew up the most but was your least favorite to play? Ooh, good question. I think when all is said and done, it's probably the Life is Strange series. I know how many people love that series, but when I played the first one, it was okay. It wasn't anything mind-blowing, but because people were so into it, that was what kind of like kept me motivated to record it. And then it ended pretty cool, and I liked a couple of the moments in it. But every single Life is Strange game since then has been very boring to play, and it's been very hard to like be enthusiastic about it and actually get through them without being very negative towards them. And that's why I kind of stopped doing them. That and every single episode of Life is Strange that I've ever done, I think except for season 2, has gotten claimed for music. Jack, are you ever going to bring back Antisepticeye, or is he gone forever? He's gone forever. Sorry. Just joking. He'll be back. He'll be back this year at some point. I do want to do more with him and all of those characters. I've wanted to do so much with them for so long, and I've said this in other places already, but I've never really said it in a video, that I've been working on like a fully realized like universe for these characters to live in and operate in, and I think some of the stuff that we've been working on has been really, really good, and I'm excited to show everybody what it is. It just needs a little more time to figure out how to get certain aspects of it done. But over the next few years, I definitely want to go towards those characters more and act out scenarios with them and kind of mess around with them a bit more. And I think there's a ton of potential in them that I really want to dive into. Hey Jack, question. Are you thinking about getting more tattoos? Yes, but I'm not really sure what yet. I only have the 3 so far, but I definitely want to fill out my arms a small bit more. But I'm not one of those people that I don't want to go in and like get a tattoo for the sake of a tattoo. I really want the tattoos that I have to kind of mean stuff to me and actually have a semblance for like my style and my preferences, instead of just getting something because I wanted a tattoo to fill a space. Totally fine if people want to do that. It's just for me, I like having them mean something so I can talk about them more. And I want to get the Bayolet from Berserk soon. If any of you don't know what that is, it's like the little pendant that has like the face on it that's rearranged in different orientations. It's really cool. Look it up. Will you ever do a collab with your fans? That would be sick, not gonna lie. What do you think we're doing right now? You guys left comments that I asked for, and now I'm answering them. That is a collab. Is it weird having a public relationship with Gab? How do you guys choose what to share and what to keep for yourselves? Do you have issues with nosy people trying to get involved? Yes. I feel like anytime you have a relationship, there's always going to be some people that want to get involved in it one way or another. And having it be a public relationship for 2 people that have large followings is always going to get a little messy here and there. Thankfully, the absolute majority of people are perfectly nice and totally cool about everything, and they're so supportive, and it's lovely. But you'll always get those people now and then who either want to drive a rift between you, or they just don't like the other person for some reason. Like, people on her end might not like me, people on my end might not like her, for whatever reasons. Usually they're benign and usually they're silly. And then some people want to get involved, and then they start making up stories about you and start making up all these rumors that just aren't true. Because no one's going to fact check it, so it comes off as like valid. But neither of us really care about that. We just kind of like live our lives and both of us love each other very much and we enjoy each other's company. So it doesn't really matter what anybody else is going to say about it. But what we choose to keep for ourselves is very easy. It's very easy to not give over information to the internet if you don't want to. And I think that's a big issue a lot of creators have, that they feel like they need to give. And as I've talked about many, many times in the past, I learned that a long time ago and now have a much healthier balance. I have the same behavior as you in a lot of ways. And when you got diagnosed with ADHD, I went to a psychiatrist to find out if I had it. Yes, I do. My question is, did the medication really work? Do you feel different, more focused and less anxious? I really don't like to take behavior medicines and want to be sure. Okay, I want to say this first and foremost, that I am not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I can only speak from my own experience for what worked for me, which is not going to be the case for absolutely everybody. And you should not take what I'm about to say from my experiences as something that you should do for yourself, because that's one thing I definitely don't want to do, is give medical advice. But for me personally, with ADHD, it was that thing that I always kind of knew in the back of my mind that I had it. And then getting the result saying that I had it was more than the medication. The medication helps. It helps me kind of like stay on track more. I think when I want to do a project, I get less fed up and less angry and less all over the place, and it keeps me focused more when I'm doing it. But for me, motivation was a big thing, and that's why I got tested, because motivation for me and hoping that medication would help like kickstart my motivation to do all these things like the ego project, I thought that would make such a massive difference, but it didn't. It just helps me do it when I'm in it. And a lot of other life changes and a lot of other sort of self-help things like writing stuff on whiteboards and planning stuff out properly helped me far more than the medication does. But I do think the medication helped, and it definitely makes me feel less anxious day to day. But you should talk to your psychiatrist more about it. Definitely about your fears on it, and they can let you know one way or another. You don't need medication if you have ADHD, but it can help. Everyone keeps calling me Jack Question. Hey, Jack Question. My name is Sean. What is a game you have played that you wish you could experience for the first time again? So I could go with the obvious ones like Shadow of the Colossus, Bloodborne, all of like my favorite games. Because those are the ones that had such a profound change on me, especially Shadow of the Colossus. I think emotionally that changed me as a person when I played it. But instead of just giving the same answers to questions all the time, I think a game that I would love to play again for the first time is Dead Space. I feel like that's such an underrated game in my sort of repertoire, and I've been thinking about it a lot lately because of the remake that's coming out, and Callisto Protocol is coming out, both of which I'll play on the channel, yes. And I've just been thinking about it a lot more, and how much like the sound design and the pacing and everything of that game kind of fundamentally changed me. And Dead Space 2 as well, the sort of lighting tricks they were doing in that game taught me a lot about game design and how things are made. And I don't know, I wish I could just play Dead Space 1 again and have that visceral experience for the first time. With everything that's been going on with you in the recent years, how have you been mentally? We love you and want you to be well. That's very sweet, thank you. I know all of you want me to be well, and it's very nice that a lot of you ask how I'm doing all the time. It really is appreciated. I do appreciate that people care a lot about me as a person. Even my like personal trainer said that it's incredible to see a large audience be so nice towards the person they're watching, because that not every community has that, so thanks. But how have I been mentally? I mean, it's still been up and down. I'd say overall it's a net positive that since like 2017-ish or whatever I started to hit like big slumps, I've definitely gotten better, and I get ADHD meds and getting evaluated for that and confirmation on that, getting a better work-life balance after like my dad passing and trying to figure myself out more, being in a healthier relationship. All these different types of things have definitely pushed me way higher than I've ever been. So overall, I'm in a really good place, but there's still a couple of things here and there. I still suffer from anxiety all the time. I have fully diagnosed ADHD, I have generalized anxiety diagnosed, and I have health-based anxiety diagnosed. So I worry in general a lot about everything, but I also worry a lot about my own health. Like if I can't really breathe much that morning, instead of thinking, oh, it's asthma, I think I'm dying. So when COVID was happening, that was a really big issue for me, and I struggled very much. I struggled a lot mentally. It's taken a toll during that period, and my tinnitus has kind of been steadily getting worse over the years, which is a little concerning because it was always like tinnitus and it was always kind of there and kind of annoying, but now it's like there's like things adding to it, where like my tinnitus is so loud all the time that like I can hear it all the time. And I start getting like fullness in my ears where it like one of my ears kind of gets muffled and then it kind of like fades out and you hear that high pitched ring, and then my ears will feel like muffled or like imbalanced. I'm kind of like shaking my head and like doing that. If you ever see me do that in a video, it's not because I'm on drugs, it's because I'm like trying to clear my ear canals and it's just weird. And then reading stuff like, is it Meniere's disease and things like that, where you can lose your hearing later in life, and I'm kind of like freaking out about that a little bit. And trying to keep like my anxieties in check. But I have my ups and downs like everybody. It's not all sunny days all the time, but most of them are. In a normal job, you tend to build friendships or at least some sort of relation with your coworkers. Does that happen with other YouTubers, even those you are not friends with, like a shared experience kind of bond? It's definitely a shared experience. It's almost like, this is an absolutely awful analogy because it's not at all the same, but like people who go to war and then come back have like you know what that's like. People who go work in certain spaces and then come back, like you know what that's like. We've been in the YouTube war for like 10 years at this point. So some people you meet can definitely relate to you a bit better if they do the same job. But for me, it is a little tricky to like keep friendships going, because in the early days it was easy to accrue all of these people who all knew who I was and follow all these people on Twitter and be nice to a lot of people. It's one thing to be friendly towards people, but to be friends with people is very different. And over the years I've learned to whittle my circles down, and this just comes with age anyway. As you like hit your 30s, you don't have as much time for people, and you kind of get past all of this kind of like needy childish energy. So getting older and kind of doing this for a long time, I started like weeding out the people who I'm always going to be nice to, and I'll always be friendly to when we meet, and we'll always have time for each other. But it's like, you're not my close friends and you're not there for me when I need somebody kind of people. So it's kind of like co-workers in that regard. But some people I've gotten very close to, and others who people I think I'm really close to, I wish I was closer to. There's some people in my life that I wish I could get like closer to, but they're a bit more closed off, and that's totally fine. That's just their personalities. But I'm always that type of person who I enjoy friendships outside of the work we do. And sometimes that's hard to do because we're all so busy all of the time. So lately, one of my favorite things to do is to just hang out with people in general when I have time. I'm always so busy as well. But even recently, like, hung out with Mark, and I was like, do you want to just hang out and talk and like not record anything? And that was lovely. That's what I enjoy doing a lot now. And I feel like that's what true friendships are. And like, when a massive traumatic thing happens in your life and the people who reach out to you, those are friends. Have you ever filmed a video thinking it was bad, but when you uploaded it, a majority of people loved it? Oh yeah, no one's a bigger critic of my content than myself. There are so many times that I'll record something and I think it's awful, and then I'm like, should I just delete that? And then I'll send it to the editors and they're like, what are you talking about? This is a great video. And then they'll edit it down and it's actually much funnier than I thought, and I'll watch it back and I'm like, oh man, that's great. So I second guess myself constantly. I always think I'm not funny enough. I always think I don't have enough ideas. I always think I'm not creative enough. Just part and parcel of being an artist, I guess. How does it feel knowing you've helped cheer up a lot of people with your videos? I tend to not think about it because it's so hard to quantify that and I have no idea how to. What do I sit down and go like, I'll upload this video because people will be cheered up? I don't think I've ever once kind of gone into videos like that. I do it because it's fun. And it's nice that people get cheered up from it, but it's so hard to think about it that way because unless people are in front of you, it's just kind of words. And a lot of people say the same things over and over again. So like positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement all becomes the same thing after a while. Because I always say that like people who are being negative towards you all the time, it's always like, oh yeah, ignore the haters. But people who are like praising you endlessly for doing nothing are also bad for you. It's also a toxic mentality in a way. And I'm not into that idea that like somebody tweets something and it's like, I did this today and I did this and that. And everyone's like, wow, so amazing, so proud of you. And I'm like, whatever. It's so bizarre. It's a weird existence to be in because you can fall into that pattern of self-gratification all the time where I know I can tweet something right now and get pity from people in 2 seconds. And that's very dangerous for my mental health. And I try to stay away from it. And I try to just stay in the middle, be realistic, be honest, be genuine, and have fun. But it's absolutely wonderful that people enjoy the content I make, even after doing it for this long, and have such nice things to still say about me. And it doesn't go unnoticed. And I still appreciate it, even though I don't accept it, if that makes any sense. Hey Jack, here's my question. Do you have any tips for people who overwork themselves and equal their work to their self-worth? It's kind of a never-ending struggle if you equate your self-worth to the work you're doing, even after doing it for this long, and I've pulled away from that quite a bit. But even now, if I have like 3 or 4 videos in a row that do badly or don't do up to scratch, then that just affects me mentally. Anyway, because I'm a worrier. I have anxiety. I second guess myself, and I'm constantly worrying, like, is this it? Am I done? Kind of stuff. So equating your self-worth to your work is just unhealthy. And I don't know how to pull you away from that because I still struggle with that. So it would be dishonest for me to give you dishonest advice. But for overworking yourself, I'd say just really get to know your limits. Your body's always going to give you a signifier when something's going wrong. If you're anxious, your body's trying to tell you something. If you're tired, your body's telling you something. If you're hungry, you eat. If you're tired, you sleep. If you're anxious, for some reason, we just don't know what to do with it. Going to the gym is a really great thing. Going out for a walk, doing any sort of physical exercise. I know a lot of you have probably heard it to death from psychiatrists and therapists and doctors, but I swear to God, it works. For me, me and Evelyn go out for like an hour walk every day whenever we can, if the weather's nice. Sometimes I blow off work just to do that, and that was me learning a boundary and a limit for not throwing myself into my work, but throwing myself into my life, and that was far more important. And getting a personal trainer, going 3 times a week, really trying to like get myself in shape. You know, it's all just like little things you can do to take care of yourself. Recently, I built a Lego thing. Damn it, I should show it, but it's downstairs and it's hard to lift. It was Far Changing Tides. They sent me a Lego thing that I built of the ship from the game. And it was really cool, but building that got me so much out of my head. Because I do so much work here looking at stuff and like looking at games and looking at screens, and then I go back and I'm looking at a screen on my phone, and then we watch Netflix or something, and that's another screen. So doing something with my hands and being like just kind of getting my head out of it and getting my hands and my brain working together. Jerk off. That's my advice. Did you actually enjoy making so many Happy Wheels episodes, or did you find it repetitive but continued because you know how much your fans adored it? Kind of all of it, really. I enjoyed making them in the beginning because it was just fresh and new and it was a cool type of content to play. I think back then when I was playing it, Happy Wheels was the most perfect game for my style of content. And I think that that's why it just connected with people so much, because that loud, boisterous energy I had fits so well with Happy Wheels, and it just enabled me to be so much of myself as I played the game. But it definitely dragged a bit. The first I think the first 40 episodes flew by, and I can't remember making most of those videos. And during the middle of it, it definitely became really? People aren't getting bored of this? You're still going to watch this? I'm just making the same jokes over and over again. And it became so monotonous and tedious and repetitive. But the fact that people were enjoying it so much kept me in it, and it was something for people to do. And then once it got to 70 episodes, I think knowing that I was going to end at 100 and that was kind of coming up, it started to get a bit more fun again, because we were kind of just ramping up to something, and having a goal in mind that it was going to end eventually kind of made me more enthusiastic about it again. So I enjoyed it more than I didn't. But that is a weird thing as well, that there are some games that if I didn't do a Let's Play of them, I wouldn't have enjoyed the game at all. Death Stranding is a good example of this. I think I would have enjoyed it a bit, but Death Stranding as a Let's Play, and the fact that I was one of the few people playing the entire game on YouTube with such long episodes, made it far more enjoyable because all of you really enjoyed it. And if people are enjoying your content, it doesn't really matter how you feel towards a certain game sometimes, because your enjoyment of it makes me excited for it. And that happens with a lot more games than you think. Because if I'm not into a game, it's easy to just put it aside and not do it. But if you guys are into it, then it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, I can't wait to record it and see how people react to this. And like get a couple of running jokes going. Whenever it comes to like long series, I always like to get at least one running joke happening. There was so many of them in Happy Wheels, but even just recently, the quarry was that like, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And then I'm like, but what if this happened? And then God of War had the dad of boy, and Detroit Become Human had the like, my name is Connor. So it's always fun in that regard, and the community makes it more fun than it would be if I was just uploading it and not paying attention to anybody. So Happy Wheels was like a bit of everything. It went on so long that how could it not be? I got a question, Jack. What was your life like growing up? What things did you do for fun in Ireland? I think my childhood was pretty good. We had a few like major downs within my family, and like I feel like the ups were a lot more than the downs. But there was definitely a couple of moments in my childhood that would like shaped me as a person forever because of like what not to do in life. But I think overall I had a pretty great childhood. I went outside every day after school. It was like pre-internet, pre-social media, all that stuff. So it was like just good old-fashioned childhood of getting outside and playing in a sand pit and playing with tractors outside. And I'd run down the field and climb a tree and swing on a rope and go to my friend's house and we'd play some video games together. So I have very, very, very fond memories of my childhood. And I was a very outdoorsy kid, so I would just go down and get lost in the fields for a few hours and then come back, and I was like reliving like Lord of the Rings in my head. It was so fun. When it comes to sound design in games, what noteworthy memories do you have of some playthroughs? Anything that really stands out, whether it enhanced the immersion, triggered an emotional response, or just in general made you impressed? There's been numerous ones over the years because so many games have great sound design, but one that really stood out to me was Inside, which I love. Inside is one of my favorite games that I've ever played. I think I put it in my 3x3, like the 9 best games ever. And I was shocked with how well made that game was. Because Limbo was well made, but you could definitely tell their budget. And then Inside came out and it was like the visuals were phenomenal. Some of the graphics tech they were using was really high end. And then their sound design blew me away. That one section with that big like whoop sound effect, the big shockwave. Go back and watch the episodes. I was so giddy when that was happening, and that's still one of my favorite games now to try out whenever I get like new speakers or a new sound system or anything like that. So it really, really impressed me. Another one that really impressed me that I haven't played on the channel, which I've been kind of contemplating, but I finished the whole game already, which was Soma. The people who made Amnesia, they made Soma, and then they came back and made another Amnesia, and everyone hated it. But that Soma game was really, really good. Really great. It wasn't as scary, but it had some really great existential questions to ask. But the sound design in that game floored me. It was so much better than I was expecting it to be for the type of game that it was, for the budget that it had. Because it's easy for massive companies to have terrific sound design like Last of Us or anything like that because they have huge budgets, so they can just throw money at it and get great sound design. I know that's not really how it works. A bad sound designer is still a bad sound designer. You still need talented people. But usually from the smaller budget games, you don't expect such terrific audio out of them, and those two games really impressed me. What's the one thing you can't forget because of how much it hurt you mentally, emotionally, or physically? Things that I can't really say on video because, not because they're like gory or bad details, but just because of the people involved, it would be unfair to them. If you could summarize your channel into different eras, what eras would be from which years? Oh man, the baby era, of course. Right at the beginning, where I'm Bambi out on the ice. I had no idea what I was doing. I was lost. I was so uncomfortable. That was like the first, 2-3 years? Well, up to like 2014. Then 2014 to like 2017 was like the Jacksepticeye era. The one that whenever anyone's like, I miss the old Jack, I miss green hair, I miss Happy Wheels, I miss all this, that, and the other. That's all 2014 to 2017. That gap was a massive boom for the channel, the biggest one it's ever had. It'll never happen again. Gaming was popping off. And that was the Jacksepticeye era. Then we had the Dark Ages. From like 2017 to 2019-ish. That was when I lost myself. I changed personal life things. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. The channel kind of slowed down a small bit. I started to get a little freaked out by that. I started to second guess myself more. I started to worry a lot. I made a lot of decisions that I was like, man, why did I do that? that was a rough time in my life. And then I'm glad I got past it. And now we have the golden age arc. Just like Berserk, we have like the golden era where I'm comfortable with myself. I'm not playing into any like trends or algorithms, and I'm just a bit more healthy about my work. I enjoy my life outside of my work quite a bit. I have a lot of cool projects going on. There was a lot of cool stuff I've been in. It's just great, man. It's only up from here. Actually, no, it could probably go down again, but I'm choosing not to believe that. Curious, what's one of your biggest regrets in your days of doing YouTube videos? Regrets that are connected to YouTube channel, of course. I think some of my regrets are not going after certain opportunities sooner or when they cropped up for me. There's a lot of stuff I turned down that now I kind of wish I did. None of them really like come to the top of my mind, but there was a lot of like, hey, do you want to fly here and do this? And I was like, no, I gotta work. Or hey, do you want to come here and do that? And I'm like, no, I'm just not in the right headspace for that. Like, again, just imposter syndrome kind of holding me back from stuff, like the ego projects and like building them up more. I wish I kind of just struck while the iron was hot on some other things a bit better. Changing up my channel a bit earlier and adapting a bit better as things went on. Just different things like that, like figuring out my boundaries a lot earlier and figuring out that it was okay to take breaks a bit earlier and measuring those out a bit better. Because when it came to that point, it was breaking point. The content I was making was shit. I lost a lot of people in the audience with that because they were like, it's not the same anymore. Which it wasn't, totally valid. And then as things change and come back now, like I think I'm much better now and healthier and like the content is much better and everything. But during that period of time, I just didn't quite figure myself out fast enough, and I knew I should have, and I'd taken more time for myself and I didn't. And then it led to like multiple massive breaks from my channel. And I think that kind of like messed things up a small bit, but it's hard to have regrets when things are as good as they are now. It's hard to like look back and be like, yeah, I regret that quite a bit. Because I enjoy where things are now. So it's kind of like, yeah, regrets, but not really. Did or does your ADHD make you feel isolated ever? I have ADD and sometimes it makes me feel almost slower or less than others that don't have it. Absolutely, all the time, for my entire life. I, like being in school, I always thought, why am I not into this thing that everybody else is into? Why am I not able to like study? Why am I not able to do like amazing grades all the time? My grades weren't bad and I got great grades for how much studying I did. But it was a lot of that stuff and feeling very, very stupid for most of my life. Like I'm smart about a lot of things, but it's hard to showcase that to other people, or it's hard to like talk in a certain way or do a certain thing, because a lot of the things that I'm smart in just don't show themselves very obviously. So a lot of people just write me off as like a dumb person sometimes. And then like doing YouTube and everything and kind of like putting yourself out there to the internet and showcasing yourself and your mentality and being a stream of consciousness all the time in my videos definitely like gives people a sense for where your brain is at a lot of times. And again, feeling very dumb for a lot of things, especially when you have some people doing one game and I'm doing the same game and they do it better or like understand things quicker and I just can't grasp the mechanics or I can't like figure it out, or even by the end of it I was like, I don't understand what happened. There's a lot of that kind of stuff, so it made me feel very isolated and made me feel very dumb to the point where I think my biggest insecurity is my intelligence. Like, being compared to other people all the time and saying like, oh, this person's smarter than you is a very big thing for me that I've tried very hard to get over and still struggle with all the time. So I think that made me feel isolated a lot. And then getting diagnosed with ADHD is like, oh, light bulb, that makes sense. I'm not stupid. I have a condition. And then life kind of, all the jigsaw pieces of life start falling into place. I can't go back and redo any of those, but at least it gives me like context and closure for myself on a lot of scenarios that I went through in my life. And that makes me feel a bit better. Hey Jack, question for you. Do you still know how to speak Korean? 아니요. 나는 한국말 잘 못해요. Brain 없어요. What's brain in Korean? What's brain in Korean? Siri can't translate Korean, apparently. yet. Racist. Nie obsoja. I knew that word. Dang it. As you can tell, not very well. How does it feel that a majority of your audience has grown up with you? I started watching you when I was 14 and now I'm 24. It makes me feel like an old man. It makes me feel like I've been doing this a lot longer than I thought I have been. I'm happy about it. It's great. Seeing people like merge with the channel and kind of mature and grow with it. But I get a lot of, most people I meet these days are like, man, I used to watch you so much when I was a kid. Can I have a picture? It's like, so you don't watch me now? Then why are you getting a picture? What is that? What was your thoughts on Felix moving to Japan? Do you miss being able to go over to his house? Yeah, it's a bittersweet kind of thing because we were getting very close to them and I've known Felix for a while and them coming over and we had like movie nights all the time and it was so fun and just getting to hang out and the fact that like COVID was starting to like ease off and the pandemic and the lockdowns, we were all starting to hang out again and like do cool stuff together. And then moving to Japan, obviously we can't do any of that stuff anymore, but that's like a selfish reasoning kind of thing because we're still here, but I'm so happy for them. He seems so unbelievably happy to be there after seeing firsthand like the stresses and strains they went through to get there and how long it took and all the obstacles they had to get over. I'm just so happy and proud of them that they were able to do it and get there and like carve out a section of their life there. It is a shame that we can't hang out all the time anymore, and I do miss him dearly, miss both of them dearly, because they were some of our best friends that live here in Brighton. So it's hard to have them gone, but I'm very happy for them that they get to live their life there, and it finally happened for them, and it actually did happen, and wasn't like called off or anything like that. So there's like goods and bads to it, but I think overall the positives outweigh that because we can go visit them at some point, and that's just an excuse to go back to Japan. Jack, what have you found out about yourself that you wish you knew sooner? ADHD would have helped a lot. I'm wondering, when did it hit you that your channel didn't just have to be a fun hobby, but you could actually be your job? Like, when did you realize that you wanted to do this as your career? And what did you think your legacy will be when you retire? First of all, I never thought it would be a job. No, obviously not. I knew people could do it as a job, but I just did it for fun still. I never went into it thinking I would make any money out of it. But it was always like, it would be cool if. But I realized that it would become a job when I was in my last semester, the last like 4 months of college in hotel management, and it started to gain like a couple of $1,000s a month every month, and it started to like exponentially go up. So I think I was making like, I made like 50 euro on it one time, and I was like, holy shit, it actually made money. Then it was like 150, and I was like, whoa, I can actually put this towards stuff. And I put it back into the channel and get games and stuff. And then 1 month it was like $3,000 or 3,000 euro or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I got that in a month. That is insane. And all I get to do is play video games. And then the next month it was like over 10K or something like that. And it just started like snowballing higher and higher. And that was like towards the end of college. And I was like, I can actually move out of the cabin and go live in an apartment with friends or on my own and not really have to worry for like a little bit. And I fully thought it was temporary. I fully thought I just struck gold for like a tiny piece of time. I would get like a year out of it and then that would be great. And then I was trying to figure out what I was going to do after that. But it just kept going and going and going and going and going. I'm so glad it did. But I never thought it was going to be a career. But it was after like the first 4 years probably that I was like, maybe this could be something more. What will my legacy be though? I have no idea. I hope to not become one of those YouTubers that just kind of like fizzles off and then everyone's like, oh, that's a shame. Remember when they used to be good and they're not anymore and now it's just sad watching them upload. I don't ever want to do that. I'd rather just quit and get out before anything like that happens. Because you don't want people talking about you like that, like what could have been kind of stuff. And I've done so well on YouTube already that I'm kind of set for life that I could quit now and I'd be fine financially. So I think my legacy, what I want is that people will look back fondly on my content, know that I was passionate about it and I had fun, that I spread a lot of positivity more than anything else, and that I tried to do a lot for like other causes that are bigger than just me and myself and this community, that I try to give back a lot. But just that this channel and this community and everything was just nice and everybody had fun. That's kind of it. I don't really think you need much more than that. I don't need to change the world. There'll be far more people after me doing this. I just want people to have had a good time while they were here and then look back on it fondly if I ever do retire and don't do this anymore. Jack, are you still planning on reviewing the Slap Chop? I love those infomercial videos. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Reading Your Comments. A long one, but it's been long overdue, so we had to get in and answer a lot of stuff. But thank you guys so much for all your wonderful questions. There were far, far more than I thought there were going to be. There was 25,000 comments on my post on YouTube asking for comments for this, so thank you very much. A lot of them were the same questions over and over again, so hopefully I answered a lot of what you wanted to know. These are also just a good like state of the union kind of thing, where I can talk about my thoughts and where I am in life and what I want to do and where we've been kind of thing. But I definitely want to do more of these and do like jokey ones here and there, where it's not just overly long rambling all the time and explaining mental health over and over again, because it's nice that people ask me all those questions, but I feel like it always kind of boils down to those types of questions, and I'm like, man, is that even entertaining to like listen to over and over again? Like, we can have a few jokes here and there, but the reason I wanted to do one of these again is because I did the Wired autocomplete interview, and I was like, yeah, this format is really fun to do. So if you haven't seen that video, go watch it. It was very, very fun, and I'm so flattered that I got asked to be in it. But I will do another one of these eventually. Who knows when, but I'll let you guys know. So thanks for watching. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for being here. Thanks in general. It's been great. Bye.